on both my machines with Zoom.
Is there an update you don't have?
Oh, 1 second.
I don't. Well, it wouldn't be an update on both machines. One of them is a Lennox, and I'm trying to get the camera is detected on the Lennox, and in what is it? The Lennox application that I'm.
I'm not sure where you're going on that offhand.
Okay, just give me a. I'm using cheese on the Lennox, and the camera was it's a webcam app.
Okay.
So I needed to find out if the camera was being detected at all.
Well, usually if it's not detected, down on the bottom of your screen is the taskbar for Zoom, and there's the video camera there. It would have a red slash through it if the video is not detected. If it's got that, you can try clicking on the camera and it comes to life. If not, there's a little up caret. Click that, go into video settings, and see what camera it's looking at. In my case, it's a Logitech HD webcam C270, it says. If yours doesn't reflect that webcam you're using, that's probably the cause, and there's a little down caret. You may have options.
In Linux, it's so helpful. It just gives the device ID, which is a bunch of hex code.
Yeah.
Hang on a minute.
Oh, so the thing is, my camera, both in the Linux and in the Windows, is detected on the machine and works.
Hmm.
And on neither of my Zooms does the camera show up.
Are you getting any message about needing permission to use it?
The message I got is cannot start video. This is the Windows side. Fail to start video camera. Please select another video camera in settings.
Okay, so it's not saying you don't have permission.
Correct.
When's the last time they worked, Pete?
Probably the last meeting.
That
That's
would have
probably-
been November, unless you were in a one after that.
There's
So
always the theory of just unplug it and plug it back in.
did that.
Well, man, I already figured out a big problem of mine. It took God knows how long.
Well, you can't see my beautiful face or the background.
That's good. At least our screens won't break.
But what has me truly perplexed, it's on both machines. I have the Lennox working on one side of the desktop, and the webcam, which is an older Logitech, was working in its application.
There's always the concept that maybe the camera cover is on.
No, because I checked in Windows Camera.
Are the cameras hooked up with USB?
Yes. The
Try
desktop.
unplugging it and plugging it back in, see
Yep.
if that woke it up.
Try a different USB port. Maybe that'll make a difference.
Well, the thing is, Windows is detecting it and showing it in the camera app properly.
Oh, but Zoom's not picking it up.
But Zoom is not picking it up.
Okay. I got a real suggestion. What else do you have running on the computer that wants the camera? It got it before Zoom did. When I record meetings, the software I'm using, I have to launch Zoom first. I have to have my video up so you can see me like you do right now. Then I launch the other program and it will record correctly sharing the camera. But if I don't do it that way, you do not get the camera usage in Zoom. I'm not joking when I say that. And if that's the case, you have to shut them both down, then bring up Zoom, get into it, have your video up before you start up the other program again.
Okay, I will bow out of here for a second.
At any rate, I'm having one little issue that I haven't quite figured out yet.
Are you running this Zoom on Linux or are you running it on Windows?
I'm on Windows 11, Windows 10, and Linux Mint.
Well, you got them all three running and you for
Yep.
Zoom.
That's why I've
is
got
up on
3
it.
logins.
Okay, I see.
I mean, it's the only practical way of doing this. I've got to record the meetings or I'm out of luck. Hang on a minute here. Good. I got that. Now, if I can take this.
Clearance.
I'm sorry, guys. You guys can talk. I'm right now trying to get a document that I can send a copy in the chat. But right now I'm having trouble getting it to go in the chat.
I finally got my SSD properly partitioned, and I've loaded the Mint 20.3 on there, which I'm using right now. I'm using my Linux with Zoom. So it seems to be working pretty good. Does my sound come through?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good.
Actually, one of the things I'll be coming up with tonight. See, I had 20.1 on some machines and 20.2 on others, and I've upgraded them quite easily to 20.3. There's a unique trick that's in Mint that I don't so far see in any other version of Linux that I currently have on any of my machines. So in Mint, they make upgrading to the next level much simpler than most of the other Linuxes do. So that's the only bad thing I got right now. From what I can see, the only way this is going to work, I'm going to have to probably send out a email after the fact on the agenda. So I'm sorry about that, but I haven't figured out why yet as to why this chat will not accept my document.
Is it too big?
I don't think so. It's only 2 pages.
Well, just copy text and
Well, no, you ain't going to do copy text and paste that into a chat. That would be totally unreal. And other groups have, and I've downloaded them before, done documents, and for some reason, I'm blocked at the moment from downloading a doggone document. I don't know what to tell you. Well, anyway, what I want to do is start off, if we ever get started, with taking and I want to hear from any of you that can, tips that you have that you've figured out or discovered in Linux so that others can benefit from your find. Who wants to be first?
Well, this is Donna, and I wanted to say I use an extension on my Brave browser in Linux. Oh, that's probably not what you wanted to hear. But anyway, it's called Trocker, Trocker. And what I find is in emails, they count your clicks. You know, if you go to a website from an email, there's a clickable thing that they count. Well, with Trocker, it takes about 4 seconds, but it removes the clip. So then you just have the actual website. And I like that. I don't like being counted for this, where I think, anyway, that's my newest discovery, and I like it. It just is a little bit of a delay, like 5 seconds before that page loads, but they will load it without that clickable, the counting of the clicks.
That's an interesting one.
Trocker. Anyway, give it a try.
Might be worth
Perhaps.
looking at. I on some of my systems, especially my Chromebook, I've got more than a dozen extensions. I create the CCS news and tips posts, and the only way to achieve that is on a Chromebook that's got an i5 at least and 8 gigs of memory, though there are times I'd like to have a little bit more. And you can't do it even with that without some of the extensions I've got.
Okay, and then one more thing, you might want to look into it, Tim. I don't know. It's called VENTOY, VTOY.
I've got that.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's,
Anyway, apparently you can put that on a flash drive,
yes.
and then you don't have to go through all the steps of Escher. I don't know. It's something that my husband, who's here, he's eating dinner. It's our dinner time in Washington. Anyway, it's 5 o'clock. He got it on a stick, but then he was told there was no more room, so he hasn't figured out how to use it yet. But he's playing with it.
It's a piece of cake. There's an alternate called Yummy that does something in a similar fashion. YUMI. But VTOY I have, and I do use it on a number of different versions, not just Linux. I also have a copy of Windows on there. Bob?
Yeah, VTOY. I did recently a demo of it for another user group, and I might be able to find where that video is. But anyway, it was part of my talk about putting Linux onto an old PC for one of our Massachusetts groups. VTOY basically allows you to take an ISO, which is a disk image, and just copy it to a USB flash drive. If you have installed VTOY properly, it will just simply pick it up and it will boot and run any disk image which is capable of being run in that fashion. Not all of them can be. I'm using a USB flash drive that is, 64 gig? And I lost this video. And
Just turn it off.
oh, okay. And it does work quite well. And the great part about it is if you ever want to update anything, just take out the old, put in the new, and there's no problem.
Yes.
You don't actually have to update it.
That's right. That's very true. And I've even put the G parted like we used 6 months ago on a VTOY drive. Could also have been a Yummy drive, and does pretty much the same thing. That you just stick the ISO out on there as a plain copy from your computer's drive to the USB stick that's been set up by either VTOY or Yummy. And in most cases, as long as it's a live distro, it will run. If it's not a live distro, usually it will not run.
I just posted a link to where you can learn more.
All right. Anybody else got tips, features, programs that they use?
Bob, I can't leave this screen on a Kindle and follow that link. Is there any way you can mail it to me? This is Donna.
I will email. I will make a note in my notes to do so. Donna
Thank
Armitage.
you. Okay.
I have your
Sorry.
email.
Yep, I know you do.
Okay, anybody else got any features, programs they use, have learned to use, I should say, or other tips besides what Donna gave us?
Well, I had a problem when I first loaded this 20.3. I downloaded the image and loaded it on, totally fresh. So it wasn't an update from the earlier version. But when I did, the update app wasn't working properly. So I found another update app out there on the, under the applications, and it seemed to clear it up.
Well, that's where usually, occasionally I've had a similar issue probably with the graphical updater. And usually what I do is I fall back to the command line. All you got to do is, and I think I've demoed it before, but some of you may not have been there at that demo or something. You just stick in sudo space apt, apt, space, update first. That gets your distro information to find out what is different between the present and what you have loaded on your system now. And then you just use sudo apt and upgrade, and it'll apply all the updates that it found. Now, the distro update, there's two ways I've learned how to use it. So that if you were using the original 20.1 or 20.2 that we started out with, it's a piece of cake. Not a joke. So hopefully I'll get to that this evening as well. Okay, since I haven't heard anything else, I'm going to repeat myself again. For those who don't have Linux up and running, using a USB or even a DVD disk, you can burn an image onto those two media and run it, but it will not save any of your changes.
Yeah.
If you put it on a USB drive with Rufus software, it gives you the ability to create a space for persistent storage. What that means, it's read-writable section of the flash drive that can be used for saving files, whether they're downloads or changes in characteristic, so that you're not starting out from scratch the next time you bring it up. You also have distro, one second here, you have distrotest.net. distrotest.net is a site that you go to in your browser. You select what distro you're interested in seeing, and you can play to your heart's content. And depending on the speed of your internet and your machine, you may get a little bit slower operation, but in general, you'll be able to play with it and use it as use it as a learning environment. Otherwise, you need to speak up if you got issues trying to get this stuff set up and running, and maybe we can give you enough guidance to get you past the hump. Let's see here. Now, I'm curious, for those who are running the Linux Mint version, what kind of things you've discovered and learned in Linux as you play with it.
Well, the Zoom works pretty good for me.
Yeah, I've always found it to work pretty good. Well, look at who's back. Santa Claus.
Yeah.
Are you on vacation now in Hawaii? Santa?
Santa is on vacation in Hawaii right now.
Uh-huh.
He comes here about December 26th and stays till December 24th.
Yeah, right.
He outsources all his work.
Mm-hmm.
What was the problem, Pete?
My Zoom needed an update.
You have to keep that stuff updated. It's in the meeting announcements. And trust me, they get outdated and eventually they don't work right.
I am normally ahead of that game, but I wasn't this month.
Well,
I can blame it on the non-felt earthquake we had this morning at 12:35.
Whoa.
let's see.
Well, we're flying to Honolulu on Friday.
Yeah, well, you're taking the rest of us with you.
Yeah.
I'm gonna, for the next thing I've got here, I'm going to, if I find my screen. There we go. Now this is off my Linux machine. I could have done it also from the Windows machine. This is a series of articles. One I don't have in here, and I'm going to bring it up. By the way, these are all my extensions here in Linux on Chromium. Since Donna brought up about extensions, I'm gonna see if I can. Oh nuts! I typed on the wrong keyboard. Hey,
I know how that feels.
when you got 3 machines, 3 keyboards, etc.
And 3 mice.
No, 2 mice and a trackpad, because it's a laptop.
Well, I've got 2 machines, 2 keyboards, 2 mice, and a space mouse.
Normally, the only time I use mice is on desktops. You gotta, it's the only way you get a mouse. Well, there are some USB trackpads that you can plug in, and they give you the same feel as a actual laptop touchpad.
What's a space mouse?
It has 6 axes of motion. It's used for drawings. 3D.
Tim, the drop down already has that already filled out for you.
Good. Thank you. Okay. Whoa. It's got an error in it.
It was the third item, not the first.
Oh well. Oh nuts. This thing's gonna drive me up a wall. Yeah, there you go.
Bottom line. There, cool.
Okay. Now, this package here is interesting because as you use any operating system, from time to time you're going to have broken packages. And in Windows, you bring up a command window and you run SFC /scan now for the critical files of Windows, but it does not address any of your applications. So that has to be done in a different fashion. But what this does is it gives you a means of having software that helps you when you're pretty certain you've got a real problem in your Linux operating system. So I'm not going to demo it. I haven't gotten that far. Perhaps in future months we'll get around to it. But it's real easy to do. Now they're showing you the command line way of getting it. The first thing you should always do is go to your software repository in whatever version of Linux you got. See if it's there first, and if it isn't, then you fall back to the command line. So this gives you the ability to find different problems. It's trying to also tell you about other Linux packages, how to get this stuff installed. It shouldn't be any big issue. Okay, so that's one of the things I wanted to show you tonight, but I expected you to have this document that you could be looking at, perhaps back and forth between your meeting display screen and what you look at on the document, except for when we have the presentation screen. Another thing is this is from Kim Commando, and by the way, this tab's asleep because of one of my extensions. This is how I get a lot of things done, because right now all there is the window, the tab, and the URL line, and all the content doesn't exist. I just click on it, it'll wake up, load up a fresh copy. It's now consuming quite a bit of memory just for that one web page. And that's the key on all browsers. Every web page you have open, every window of the browser you have open. On a Chromebook, like I said, that's my workhorse. I have between 55 and 60 windows open at any given time, each of them with lots of tabs, but they're all asleep. So I can fit it all in with the Chrome OS operating system in the 8 gigs of memory the machine has, which for Chromebooks is not common. It's usually it's a 4 or a 2 gig machine. So this gives me the benefit of being able to get more done without consuming a lot of different resources that may be chewed up very fast. This thing here,
Is this an extension?
pardon me,
Is this Sleep an extension to your browser?
I have all these up here. These are all extensions I use. Most of these are very common on all my machines, whether they're Windows or Linux or Mac.
Okay, so what is the name of this extension?
I can't tell you that. I'd get sued.
It's what?
I'd get sued.
Why would,
I think Tim's having a little fun with you. Actually, many browsers have this feature built in.
Some of them do, but not all of them, and they don't always work exactly the way this one does.
Okay.
There was a predecessor to this one here, and somebody bought it out from the person who created it. They started tinkering with it, and it got banned by Google for potentially malicious software. And so the originator came back with an updated version, renamed, and this is called the Marvelous Suspender. It's in the Chrome library, or Chrome Web Store if you wish. At any rate, this article here talks about having a free check of your router to see if it's been hijacked by criminals. And it only gives you a limited amount of information. It says, who's my DNS? Okay, so you click on that. It opens up on another tab, and it shows me, it'll eventually show me here, what my server, my reserve is, and who owns the IP. And on this one here, it is really slow, but this machine's a little limited, so it might be that issue. So I'm going to try running it on, well, what I'll have to do is I'll have to stop this share to open up another share and see if I can share that one screen. All I got to do is find out of all the screens I've got up here, which one am I playing with? Well, at the moment, I gotta. Oh, that is it. Okay, I wasn't sure about one. I had to check outside of. Oh wait, this one here. Sure. And whoops. Come on. Oh, nuts. I hit the wrong thing. I'm trying to. You got this drop down at the top net when you're doing it. This is the screen, because I tried this earlier. Come on. There we go. Okay. I'm using a DNS server. It gives its address. The reserve, that's the secondary address for DNS. You have always a primary and a reserve address, and Cloudflare owns this one. I use several different free DNS systems to get better responsiveness because the ISP's DNS servers are usually very heavy on latency. It means it's slowed to respond to your request. And if you're in any kind of a hurry, good luck. You're going to need it. So that's why I do it in that fashion. But if that was not what I just showed you, I would know flat out somebody got into my router, hacked it, and changed it to point to somewhere where I'd probably get malware or easier hacking done. So that's what that little piece of software can do, is help you know that you are using a proper DNS service, because DNS is domain name services. Every URL you type into a browser, the computer can't understand it. It's kind of like cats. They don't understand the thing you're saying, and neither does the computer. So it takes your URL, sends it out to a DNS server, and translates it into a numeric address, like that address that was shown on there. And it gives you the ability to see that website, because that's all that goes through the internet, is that address to link you and your browser to that server. It then displays whatever the content is you're trying to look at. So that's the gist of what a DNS service does for you. I also, when I make up my posts for news and tips for CCS, I always include security articles. I'm a strong believer in an old adage: forewarned is forearmed. Whether you can directly do something about a security issue on your computer or not, knowing some of the bad things that are going on, you may be able to break your internet connection before you get hosed. And these are some of the kinds of articles that I think give you an edge over the majority of people using a computer worldwide, because most of them don't understand enough about the internet, let alone their computers, to figure these things out. This one here, oops, I did have it in here. All right, anyway. This one here, this is a one called a backdoor that has been found, and it's spreading to Linux as well as Windows and Mac. And it says here on the subtitle line, not even the Mac can save you from this time, because they found ways of getting around a lot of the security that we may have on our systems. And that's the thing. As soon as we put up some kind of a roadblock to stop some of the bad guys from doing what they want to do with our computers, you have them figuring out new ways of breaking in. And the bad part is, a lot of this stuff has been figured out long ago, and it's just slowly getting released, making that person who figured it out money. And that's what a lot of cybercrime is all about: making money, your money.
Tim, I found out that Linux Mint has its firewall. You just have to activate it.
All Linux browsers have a firewall, and
Yeah.
every one that I've put my hands on requires you to activate them. And that's just the basics. That's kind of like Windows firewall, which is turned on automatically. It's just a basic firewall. There's rules that can be set up to tighten down security and stop things from happening. But boy, that gets real heady, real fast. In Windows, I have one tool that helps me out a lot, but I haven't found anything in Linux as yet. So firewalls, yes, you should have them on. Your first line of defense, though, is the router to your attached to your modem, whether that's in one device or separate devices, with your ISP. That has a firewall in it. If they breach that, if you don't have a firewall turned on each computer, then they can get into your system and may be able to figure out how to get administrator or system level privileges and do whatever they feel like doing. I've seen a system where this has happened. In fact, I gave them a couple test systems, and it didn't matter whether it was Windows or Linux. These people had no trouble breaking in and doing whatever they wanted to on his computers. It seemed like whoever was behind this had some kind of vendetta. That's my opinion, and I'm entitled to it. Now, offhand, the next one that I'm bringing up here is another one. It's targeting all three OSs. So it's, and you'll get a document. I'll be sending out a document of this, and that way you can take a look at it yourself. And it's more for your information to make you aware of a lot of this stuff that's going on. Windows is a gigantic target. Everybody's trying to do criminal activities against a Windows-based system. Mac is a much smaller target, and they're still now trying to break into the Macs. And Linux, relatively speaking, for the end user, is a tiny dot at the end of a sentence, relatively speaking, in the number of installed systems. That makes it even better than Apple in as far as a target goes. But at the same time, too, they're starting to really start cranking out the hacks and malware to break into Linux systems as well. And if you don't know about it, you will find out when you lose control of your system to one of these hackers, or you get ransomware. And if you don't have a backup of your system, well, that's toast. And I want to point out here one other thing. Any USB devices you have that are storage type devices, flash drives, external SSDs, external hard drives, spinning type, etc., when you're not using them live to do file transfers, backups, copies, whatever it is you're doing with them, take them out. If you get hit with malware or a hacker, he's going to attack every single thing that's attached to that computer. Guarantee it. So that means if you've got an external device, say with all your backups on it, right at the wrong moment, they'll lock up your entire backup drive also. Now what do you do? So I'm just giving you that kind of information. What you do with it is your business. You can ignore it, but I recommend that you at least learn what's going on around you. I do these tips all the time. It's totally up to you to proactively try and protect yourself and your systems. And nuts. And if you don't, bad things are going to happen sooner or later. That just seems to be the way our great world is going. And I don't know how else you get around it. Now, the next thing I've got here, I'll probably do the demo, but Donna Armitage brought up at the Central Computer Society of Florida a program called Stacer. It works on Linux. It works kind of in the same mode as CCleaner on Windows. And if I can get this cat out of my way, I'll be in good shape. Oh, hang loose. I'm going to get that out of the background. There we go. All right. This is Stacer. And this is the initial page. It gives you a dashboard of what kind of a load are you putting on the CPU, memory, and your disk drive. Now, this disk drive being a small one because it's Linux and I can get away with it, it's pretty up there. So it's one of those things where you have to accept what's going on. This rocket on the side panel, its function is to show you startup applications you currently have showing. Right now, I have active in my Mint. It's called Redshift. It's in, oh, hang on a minute. I gotta enable something here. Redshift, sorry, I had to respond to something. Is like a program called f.lux or g.lux. G is for a Google-based system like Chromebook, and flux is for a Windows system. What it does is it keeps track of sunrise, sunset, and when it gets to sunset, it starts diminishing blue light and replaces it with what they call warm light or sunlight, like tinting to your browser and Windows screen, and helps people who are maybe disturbed by their blue light from being heavily active on the internet. Now, the what the heck happened? Oh, couldn't find my mouse for a minute. I thought my cat ate it. Anyway, then you have the broom here. Now, this is one that I found to be non-intuitive. Somebody's got a speaker on and I'm picking up a little background noise. So you, if you got some noise in your area, that you might want to mute your mic. Hang on. Okay, I got another somebody trying to come in late. All right. Offhand, on this screen of Stacer, it breaks it down into 5 categories: package caches, That means each of your applications, crash reports, excuse me. I put an L in there. Application logs, which can get carried away, having lots of old ones that you're really ignoring. Application caches and trash bin. But if I click on this here, nothing happens. And I couldn't figure out what the heck was going on. You either have to select all down here, or let's say I want just 2 of these. I want the package caches. I click on that check mark and trash. So now I've only got those 2. If I click on the blue magnifying glass, it will clean out just those 2 and leave everything else. If I select all of them get lit up, and it goes through the process of finding out what's out there. Right now it says package caches. I've got 23 items for a total of 191.8 megabytes. Crash reports is 0. Application logs, I've got 75, taking up 360.1 megabytes. I've got application caches of 17, taking up another 488.5 megabytes. And the trash bin, it doesn't tell you what's all out there, but currently it has 191 bytes in it. And you just click on the cleanup brush after you come over here at the bottom and select all. Now they're all lit up. If I wanted to, I could take this one that has nothing and uncheck it. And if I want to, I could have taken it and individually put check marks against the ones I wanted. Hit the broom. It's going to ask you for permission, which with a cat here is fun. Okay, and it cleaned it all up. Now there are other features in Stacer. This is a search. There's all kinds of search applications. How much you're going to get out of this one here over any other search feature in other parts of the operating system or the file manager, I'll leave that up to you. I haven't used it yet. These are services that are currently running on the system. In the next category, it says there's 72 services currently running. Now, only if you know what you're doing, over here on the right side, you have the ability to turn off some of these services at startup and or current runtime. Do not do that unless you're absolutely certain what you're doing. Especially on the startup column, which is the left column here. These are starting up except for this one here, which is console dash Getty. It's not running at all. And the second column, this is for the run status. If it's red, it's not running right now. If I click on the button, it'll start up that service running. Again, know what you're doing. The best thing to do is to take screenshots of all these things here. Do Google searches and see if you can find out and understand what each service is doing. But be very, very cautious. You can jack your system a bit, and that's something I'm certain you don't want to do. The next category is the processes that are running. Again, this is an area we haven't touched upon. Most of the groups have not touched upon it that I've attended meetings in. This is a good area to also pick up a bit on, because this is how you can kill a running process if you know what it is. And in the left-hand column is the ID number of each of the processes. And what you would do in like a command window is issue a kill command with this ID number to kill that process. There may be a way of doing this. Oh, John's having a problem. He's popping in and out. I'm not sure why. But at any rate, these are two areas, processes and services, you have to dig into eventually to better understand them and be able to use them to your advantage. These exist in Windows under the Task Manager. So if you look at Task Manager, you have the processes that are running in the first tab. Services is, I think, the fourth or fifth tab. So they are available in those, and there's other ways of getting to those things as well. I use sometimes on my Windows systems. Resources. This gives you a graphical representation of how stressed out your computer may be. Now, the one that is showing here is a Core i3 computer, that desktop, not the Windows 11 computer, which has an older processor, but it's a quad core, whereas the i3 is a dual core, but each core handles 2 threads, which means it alternates back and forth between 2 different jobs per core. How much memory you're using on average. As you can see, it's almost a flat line, and in most systems, most of the time it is, unless you load up a very heavy application. And then all of a sudden you'll see a spike, and then it'll level out again. And when you close that app, it drops down and levels out again. You have in here history of data read writes to your storage devices, and you can see periodically it's doing some writes. Most of them are light. Occasionally you get a good bump. You have history of memory, how it's doing, and like I said, this is pretty much straight line most of the time. You have history of the network. It looks like it's a pretty flat line on what it's doing on the internet right now. I'm not overstressing it, but I live alone, so it's not like there's somebody else in the house perhaps watching streaming media right now that might increase the tax load on this system, or they're on another computer doing something that's very heavy. Then you have a pie graph of resources, and as you move it, it gives you some idea of the category right in the top section there. It gives you in small print what you're pointing at and how much of the resources is being used by each of these things. That big section there is 69.44%, and I think that's probably for the CPU. I don't remember right now. A small print it gets even smaller on this display in Zoom. Then you have various host managements. Gives you information of your connectivity. I'm on an Optiplex 3010 computer, which is quite a bit older than Dennis Leeds' computer that he picked up. He has a 3050, I believe, if I remember right. And you can go see some of the other resources that are connected to the system. Then you have repositories. These are the current repositories that are listed as known by my Mint, but 2 of them are currently disabled. They show up as a red switch instead of a green switch on the right side. This gives you the ability to see maybe one of these is off because I turned it off. In my case here, I did not turn these off, but let's assume I did. I would have the ability to turn it back on. If it's a broken link, the system automatically shuts this off. So right now, I have noticed on a lot of my Linuxes that when apt update runs, it gives me back a message that it cannot get updates from some of the resource sites. In some cases, I've gone in to change resource locations. In some cases, I just leave it alone and ignore the message. It seems to get everything I need as is. And the last one down here are a few added things. I can change the auto start Stacer is a switch. That means every time I bring up boot up my Mint, it would then automatically launch Stacer. Personally, no thank you. I don't need any more load on it than absolutely necessary. I can also, this one I did activate. If you try and quit Stacer with this one off, it will nag you, do you really want to quit? And versus maybe minimize the screen so you can see something else on your display. With it on, it won't ask you, do you really want to quit? It will just plain quit. You can change your language if you're multilingual. You could change what drive is being viewed here by Stacer. There are multiples in this system, so I can change what am I looking at. The start page of Stacer defaults to dashboard, but I can take and select which one of these categories I want to bring up first. Like maybe I want to have it come up all the time with the system cleaner instead, and just go straight to the cleaner and clean up the garbage that's accumulating in my system to keep it running as smooth as possible. You have percentage of disk. Now this one here, I'm not sure about. I haven't investigated what it's trying to say. It may be a reserve area. I'm not sure. I'll look into that at a later time. Right now, I don't want to really mess with it. So this is it's a nice utility. I will say BleachBit I use the most. Okay. Under any Debian-based distro, this includes Ubuntu, Mint, and a whole plethora of others that are made from Debian, Ubuntu, and Mint distros. you have the ability to clean up all the downloads, the upgrades, and a bunch of other things under the APT category at the top of BleachBit. But on, let's see, maybe I can bring that up quickly. There's nothing quick here. Gosh darn it.
Now, Tim,
Yes?
Tim, it must be mentioned with BleachBit, when you're cleaning apt, you are running as root or administrator. You have to be careful what you do when you're doing that.
Well, on some systems like Mint, you have two versions. You have a root-based version and you have a user-based version. And you're correct, on the root one, you have to be careful. It's always going to bring up this screen. I can put a check mark in here to periodically check for updates via the internet for it. But APT only exists on the Debian base. On my Gecko, which is an RPM base like Red Hat and Fedora, doesn't have it. And on my Arches, you don't see this. This gets you a lot of stuff that accumulates fast in your root directory. And I'm root partition, I should say, not directory. And this is a blessing if there ever was one. I don't know if I'm showing that.
I use both of them. This is Donna. I
Well,
use both.
Yeah, so I use both too, but I mean, this is the BleachBit is the heavy hitter because especially on the Debian-based distros, whereas Stacer is a very lightweight one, kind of like CCleaner used to be. CCleaner has gotten beefed up over the years. It does a lot more than it ever used to in the early years of CCleaner. But again, even with CCleaner, you got to be a little careful what you're telling CCleaner you want to do on your system. This is true of any cleanup program. But as an example, and I will bring it up here, because I wanted to upgrade from 20.2 UMA, UMA, to 20.3 UNA, UNA versions of Mint. I didn't feel I had enough space in the root directory. I keep saying directory, root partition. Sorry about that. So I booted up off of live gparted, and I resized my home smaller because I don't have that much out there, and increased the size of my root partition, and I had absolutely no trouble whatsoever. And this is something you have to do when you're using a small drive like I am. And this is only a 32 gigabyte solid state drive. You'll be hard pressed to find them that small, but it works just fine with Linux. You're not going to run Windows very well on a system like this in 32 gigabytes. Whereas I do have a few Linuxes that really recommend that you have 64 gigabyte SSD or hard drive as the minimum because they exceed the capacity of a 32 gigabyte drive. So you have to take that into account. And I hope it's somewhat understandable. If not, speak up and we can I can attempt to clarify that further. Another thing, especially since Donna was nice enough to breach the subject of browser extensions, I want to share my screen again. And I want to preface this by saying that offhand, like I said, these are all the extensions I have out here. They have quite a variety of functions, from hiding things to giving my, this is LastPass, my password manager. I use it on everything, Chrome OS, Windows, Mac OS, Linux versions. I don't care what the distro base is, whether it's Debian base, RPM base, or which is just the package manager. Mine's based on OpenSUSE and Archbase. I use it everywhere because it's in the browser, and as long as I can load up a browser that either supports Chromium or Firefox, I can use my password manager, and I have access to all my online accounts. This one here is a little strange beast. There's a similar one for Firefox, and if anybody's ever heard of WaterFox, it's a compiled and slightly older version of Firefox that it's based upon. You would use the alternate version. What this is, it's a JavaScript blocker. JavaScript blocker can be a powerful tool because virtually all websites, to give you interactivity instead of just seeing like a picture before your eyes, uses JavaScript. It's the heart and soul, along with Python and a few others. But JavaScript is the main thing, and I can say I can temporarily allow this site to display. I can allow it to display. I can say this is a trusted site, so it goes beyond allow, giving extra privilege. Or I can deny it or distrust the site, meaning it'll always be blocked anytime I bring it up. The sad part about it is what it might throw at you. I got to give you an example here. Without seeing it, you wouldn't comprehend it. Now, this particular piece of extension, they all come out of the Chrome store or Firefox's store, and it's called Script Safe. In Firefox base browser, it's called No Script, and it functions pretty much the same. Now, if I drop down this box, and let's just say I give, it says I am looking at a tab that's got the website yahoo.com. So I'm going to say temporary because I haven't been there before. That's a lie, but let's do it. And I'm going to click here. Now, you see up here a little red square with a number in it. I believe it says 4. I'm a little ways away from my screen. And it's saying I've got one video yahoo.com extension wanting access so that I can see their videos play, and 3 web bugs. They don't give you the option of saying go ahead and do the web bugs. Usually it does not matter, and these usually are taken as trackers, so they're being blocked. I'll temporarily set that up. Now, if I were to go into my email on this, it would then give me the ability to do other things. As you can see, when I clicked somewhere on the site here, the box disappeared. It then reevaluated from that one that I said go ahead and temporarily trust, and it starts showing you more of the things that I can click on temporarily. I only click on things that do not say advertising or the letters ad. See, this says video, ad, app TV, and advertising. But here's double click. That's advertising too. I'll never give these allow or temporary access. I am blocking these all of these right now, and they cannot interfere with me. They also, by blocking them, speed up my process. But right now, I may not be able to get everything I want because I may need these two here also activated. Right now, I might do the video one, but I may not do this one here because this is talking about edge cache. Also, if I see any in here that indicate CDN, CDN is the tip-off that this JavaScript has to do with the formatting of the web page. Those are almost always required. I can take any of these down here that I've given temporary rights to, and I can change them to allow or trusted as long as I feel comfortable with them at any time. And those will stay in effect. Temporary ones, as soon as I leave this website, that temporary permission vaporizes, and if I come back to the site, I have to reestablish them. So until you kind of train this kind of extension as to the places you go to and how much level of protection you want, it can be a frustrating nightmare, and you're having to look up here all the time. Is it a red with a circle and a slash through it, meaning I'm not giving you anything but what you see, and in some cases you won't see anything. In other cases, you'll see the blue with the exclamation mark and maybe this red box with a number in it saying it's a temporary access on some stuff. One or more of these is temporary. Right now we have two. The others are plain blocked right now unless I click them, and I have to activate them by clicking somewhere on the web page, and that one is now active, and it activated some of the others down here also. So there are times when you got to experiment to find out what you do need to get the content per web page you go to and block all the rest of the junk that interferes and makes your computer web page rendering much slower. I use this on a limited basis on many of my machines, but I also use it very heavily on the Chromebook that I use for doing up the CCS news and tips. So I'm just throwing it out there as something that some people who like privacy, this is one area you might want to seriously look at, because I can block the ads, and it's different from this one here. This is ghostery. It's an ad blocker, and there's tons of them out there. It's one I've been using for years. It'll block a lot of the ads, but not necessarily everything. And so this, I know, is blocking a lot of content I don't want. And I just have to accept that I have to experiment what I can get away with as the minimum things to activate. And that way I can use that site and ignore all the rest of the trash they throw at you. I found that in Yahoo, and there's a lot of other sites, there can be a tremendous amount of JavaScripts being run, into the hundreds. Other sites can be as few as 4 JavaScripts. Those are nice sites. Those I usually don't have much of a problem with. But if you get into some of the Yahoo stuff net, I can, the way I've got mine set up right now, and I do my email also on it. I do downloads of files off of emails, etc. I may have several hundred of these being blocked every single time I use the Chromebook with the Yahoo site. And this is per site that it functions on. Every single site that I have done any blocking on with this, it remembers what I allow unless it's temporary. If it's temporary, it will forget it. And I would have to reactivate that to get some kind of a function. So I throw it out there. It's a security, privacy issue, and there's a lot of people that have talked about these kind of issues. Donna even brought it up. Now I'm going to go here to the malicious, the marvelous suspender. I'm going to say I want to suspend all other tabs. Now look at the browser tabs on the display there, how they look, and I'm going to go through the suspension, and it went through because I don't have that many tabs open at the moment, and it closed every one except the one I was on. If I were to open each of these back up, I'm doing this really just to demonstrate it. I have the first tab highlighted. I'm going to hold down the shift key. I got to put a computer laptop down first. I'm going to hold down the shift key, click the last tab. They're all now highlighted. I can click on the suspender and say suspend all selected tabs. I can also have unsuspend if they were all suspended, every one of those tabs in a row. I can also say suspend all other tabs than ones that are highlighted, or unsuspend all tabs that are not highlighted. So there's a lot of...
Is that an extension?
Yes,
that an
it is.
extension?
These are all extensions.
Okay.
These are extensions that I put in browsers constantly. I have a vast online security. I've got Malwarebytes browser guard. I've got HTTPS everywhere loaded up. This is called Canvas Fingerprint Defender, and this one here is called Session Buddy. This is a godsend on some of my systems, particularly the Chromebook, which you can't back up in any normal fashion. This acts as my backup. Some people say, with all the tabs I've got open, how do you know what you got and where it's at. Well, especially with 55 to 60 open windows with multiple tabs per window, this tells me exactly each window what I've got sitting out there. All these tabs in the second window, except for this tab here, are all suspended. All these up here are currently open because I haven't suspended them. If I come back here to the Marvelous Suspender, I can say suspend all others. All those went to sleep, but the current session extension is still showing everything here, but it looks a little grayish now in the list, meaning that it's not live. Only this one down here in the second window. When you got 55 different ones, this is a godsend. I can also say, hey, on the Chromebook, since it doesn't have normal backup, I can say save. And what I usually do periodically is I key in restore PT and the today's date. Oops, today's date, not yesterday's. And it took from this tab here, which is the current session, created a restore point, and it's identical. And so the end result is it is a way of backing up my browser on Chrome for everything that's open. And I can, if I lose a page, I accidentally killed it in the current session, I can come here to this restore point and reopen that window that it gets re-registered in the current session. This is an old session that I had previously made, and I can restore any of these and they become active in the current session. This is
Tim,
just
question about this. If this, does this extension make the restore point outside of the Chrome profile?
Yes.
Good, because I have found that if the profile gets corrupted, you can lose everything in Chrome.
Yes, you can, but I got to give you a proviso, and I didn't get to it yet. But
Okay.
You brought it up at the appropriate time, and it's an appropriate question. It does put it outside of the Chrome, but I have never found exactly where it put it. Okay, at least not on a Chromebook. I haven't looked at it on Windows or Linux. However, if you come to the gear here, you have the ability to back it up. You can export it and put it on another computer with the same extension. You can import from that extension export. And there's a few other odds and ends you got down here, especially settings, that are worth always looking at in anything you've got in software. You should always check out your settings to find out there are things that you might want that are not active until you activate them. And this, I don't care whether you're talking Linux, Windows, or Mac, or what applications you put on those OSs, you have to go and check out settings.
Are these extensions specific to Chromium, or do they also exist in Firefox?
To be truthful, there are a few of these that don't exist exactly. For example, the Marvelous Suspender, I don't think exists in Firefox. There's something called Tab Suspender, but I didn't like it as much when there was Google knocked out the Great Suspender, which was the original name of Marvelous Suspender, until some jerk took it over, buying him out. generally speaking, if I go into here, go to more tools, extensions, and come over to the hamburger, open up the web store, I can put in here MARVELUS. If I can type. Oops. I think I put in too many P's. All right, what did I?
Got a V missing in marvelous.
Oh. Thank you for spotting it. I'm a little bit ways from the doggone screen, and it's difficult for me to read it. Well, it's only a 1080p. My Chromebook's 1440, and it's a smaller screen. I got that laptop with Chromebook is 13-inch. This is a 22-inch 1080p. So there's a big difference. This is the add-in, if anybody's interested. I found it to be just like the old Great Suspender, and I think the Great Suspender is back out there again in the store, but I don't trust it now because of the jerk that bought it out. I don't know if he's doing something unscrupulous that I don't want to deal with. So avoid the Great Suspender. In Firefox, I don't want to really bring up that browser on this system here. It's the Marvelous Suspender, if it's out there again, that I would go along with. Tab Suspender is the closest thing I've seen otherwise.
Okay.
And like Bob brought up before, there are browsers out there now that have suspension option, but in some cases you have to activate that. That's again, you have to get into your options of any software you have installed in order to find out, and it's either under options, settings, or preferences that you'll find this stuff. Find out what's available, and you may find things that you would like to have active, and as a result, all you got to do is turn them on. If you don't turn them on, you don't get them. It's that simple. So you have to be an explorer. And my analogy is when you're in play mode to learn stuff, you have to switch off your adult brain and turn on your child's brain. Because the children have no fear. They go out exploring. What does this do? What does that do? What happens if I do this? What happens if I do that? And they're not concerned if it even hoses the whole system. But they're learning about these things, and that's why younger generations know a lot more than the older generations do. So if you take that to heart and change your mind a little bit when you're trying to learn this stuff, things go a little bit easier. You find out you got more power and features you don't have to have extensions for, because the more extensions you have, the more memory your browser is taking up. This is probably half the extensions I have on my work Chromebook, and that's not a joke. I have that many out there.
Just a question real quick. I went to the Chrome web store.
Yes.
And there's only 2 listed. One I thought was the one you said, Dope, the Great Suspender Original.
Do not.
And the other one was Tab Suspender.
Okay, what you did, you didn't type in Marvelous Suspender in the search box. You have
Okay.
to do that. Otherwise,
Alright.
you don't see that one. And the
Thank
great
you.
suspender is the one you do not want, because some guy bought it out. He got booted off by Google, period, from Chrome, period. And he's back again, so he's better than what he was doing, but I am not trusting him at this time. I'll let other people find out if he's trustworthy or not. So only use the Marvelous one. This is by the original person who made the great suspender before he sold it. So this is the only one I trust. By the way, on chromium base, you have this little puzzle piece that you may be able to see on my screen. This gives you push pins. If you take, for example, my LastPass, if I click this push pin, it disappears up here. It's hidden, but it's still there. It's still active. If I click on the push pin, you see it. In, I think it's Firefox that I'm thinking of, or Edge Chromium. Instead of using the push pin, they have an eye. And if the eye is normal looking, it's visible. If you click on the eye, it'll put a slash through it, and it becomes invisible but active. So these are some of the little gotchas that drive everybody nutso at one point or another. This is life on a computer. And I'm wondering at this point in time, I'm getting off of this here, by the way. Do any of you guys have any programs that you may have downloaded on your Linux base? It's in your download folder, and you can't get it to run. It just refuses to run. Any of you tried that yet?
Yeah. I can't remember what it was, but
That's
there was
okay.
one program. I can't, I'd have to look.
I understand exactly what you're saying. Hang on one second here. Can you see, I brought up the download folder in Explorer. You may or may not see it.
No.
Yeah.
Okay. I gotta find it on the screen. There it is. Okay. There we go. And that, of course, is in the background. I'll drop that out and I'll enlarge that. Boost changer. I downloaded just as a lark. It's got a star in it. It originally did not. If you right click on this, you can get down to properties. And under permissions tab, I can change it, the access to read, write, or leave it read only, because originally it was read only. And I can,
Tim, we will not be able to see any overlay menus on your screen.
oh, okay. Hang loose for a second. Nuts. Hang loose.
Yeah, I think it's a difference between share app and share desktop.
It is
Well,
probably.
real quick, that Marvelous Suspender, I was
Pardon?
able to add that to the Brave browser from the Google or from the Chrome store.
That's because it's based on Chromium. Anything that's based on Chromium, it'll work in.
Okay.
Under Firefox, I'm not sure if it's available there anymore. The Great Suspender was until it got removed. And Tab Session, I think, is the one I tried using for a while, and I just didn't care for what it was able to do. I even used it on Chrome browsers as well. And it just didn't work for me. But anyway, basically, in here, if you do the properties, you get a screen that is just the properties, just like on Windows. Up at the top, there's 4 tabs. The second one is permissions. You click on that, and down in the page, it gives you access. They say read only. If you change that to read write, you now have the ability to deal with this. And also, you want to go down to near the bottom. It says execute. You have to put a check mark there. It's blank. The way it was loaded onto your system in the download folder. That check mark says I can now execute it. I have read-write access to it, or read-only access to its content. So these are some of the gotchas that come up in everybody's life on any operating system. I don't care what it is. I want to get into another one. I'm going to launch here out of Administrator the Update Manager, and I'm also going to launch where's that at now? Systems Report. Now you can't see them yet until I share. Now this is to take Mint, and I don't know of this existing anywhere else. This is the Systems Report that I'm bringing up now, and basically speaking, Systems Report is saying the new version of Mint is available, 20.3. I didn't update this one yet, so you could see this. If you click on this, it'll go through the upgrade process. In addition, here is the Update Manager. Now it's saying right now I have updates for Chromium and the policy kit. Okay, that's fine. But I found out, and I forget how I found it out. If you go to edit, it says down here, usually you only have the first 3 items in the list, but when there's an update available, it shows up there also. Either one of these will allow you to bring up an update session. Actually, I shouldn't say update, an upgrade session. It's like the upgrades to Windows. They replace most of your operating system on your system. And it goes through each of these. It tells you these are release notes. If I click this, it'll bring up in the browser release notes about things they know about in this version of Mint. The next one is the features. The next one is requirements. In order to do the upgrade, I have to put a check mark here. If I don't put the check mark, it won't give me the apply button. With the check mark.
Tim, again, we're not seeing the popover.
This is hang loose for a second. I don't think I can. I'm sorry about this. I can't show you the popover that I'm displaying. At least I don't know how I can get that. But generally speaking, it says requirements in the left-hand column as the 4th item. And if you don't put in the check mark, you don't get the apply button. once the check mark's in there, if I click apply, it's going to download and install 20.3 that'll take over. When it's all done, it goes to the 5th line, which is a summary recap telling you whether the upgrade worked or it didn't work. So I don't know what else I can do to show you this kind of a feature. I can go back to this one here. I'm sure it's going to do the same thing. It'll do a popover. Yeah, it did a popover. And you can't see the popover.
If you get out of the share screen and come back in, will that show the popover?
We can try it.
If you share the whole desktop, you might see it.
There it did.
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here's the popover. It works the same way in both locations. This is the intro. This is what's available as a new upgrade to Una. If I click next, it says here's release notes. Some people like reading them. Some people say I'd rather be surprised. This is new features. Now that you might want to look at for new features that are added to 20.3 that aren't in the previous versions. This is the system's requirement. No, you don't see the apply button. It's grayed out. You only have the back button and cancel. If I put a check mark here, and it's hard to see, go ahead.
Go ahead. Yeah, it shows up now.
Yeah, that's the check mark I just put in. It takes a few seconds on here because of the load on this i3. Now I got the apply button. I'm not going to hit it because it'll go through the whole update process. We don't want that. If it gets, when it's done, whether it's succeeded or not, it'll display under summary that it was a failed upgrade or it succeeded. I think I had one fail. I don't remember what the reason was. I took care of the problem, and all the rest of the upgrades have all been successful. So this is something that seems to be unique. This again, to the best of my knowledge, when I looked at my Ubuntu installations, frankly, they didn't show up. So I'm telling you right now, every distro that I've looked at, I have not found a similar feature. If it's there, I just haven't found it as yet. But under Mint and any other distro that says it's based on Mint has the same feature. How do I know this? I have one made by Linux FX. It's called Windows FX. They have one that looks like Windows 10 and another one that looks like Windows 11. It's based on Mint. And so in those two distros, I can upgrade to the foundation of 20.3, and any new features that 20.3 has the prior versions don't have, I now have available in those distros. And there are other distros out there based on Mint, but I don't know all of them. But any distro that's based on Debian and Ubuntu, to the best of my knowledge, does not have this feature.
Well, there is a graphical interface that you can call up in Ubuntu, but you start in the command line.
Okay, that might be where it's hidden. That's the way I look at it. This is somewhat hidden. I normally have not touched systems reports, and I actually found this feature by accident under the update software application under the edit menu. That's when I also found out it's also in systems report. So to me, it's not as hidden as it sounds like it might be under Ubuntu and any distros based upon Ubuntu.
Yeah, and if you had pure Debian, it would probably not be graphical.
Yeah, they all vary. I mean, nothing like this that I have found under Arch or OpenSUSE has anything like this feature that makes them tougher to upgrade. Not impossible, just tougher. You might have to go through the command line.
Mint does like to make things easier and more graphical. That's part of the philosophy of Mint.
Yes, and I think it's a real positive because, for example, we originally started out on, I think, 20.1 or 20.2 Mint, and some of you, like Wayne, have reloaded your systems using the most current release when you could have used the same distro and done this upgrade instead and gotten to the same place. Figure that one out. Try that on any other distro. I wish you a lot of luck.
Yeah, but one caveat, an in-place upgrade will sometimes leave you with some instabilities. And things break.
Aw, nothing breaks. I haven't seen a thing break yet.
You're also using
Other than my
Cinnamon.
mind, maybe.
You're also using the Cinnamon desktop. Now there's also a Mate or MATE desktop that's also with the Mint.
You got to understand, you got to delineate between desktop versions of the desktop versus the Foundation OS.
Right.
This is a Foundation feature. So it's in all the Mint versions,
Right.
all the distros, regardless of what desktop is being used, unless a person creating another distro based upon Mint figures out how to disable that feature. So that's why I say when you get into the other distros, you may not find a feature like this. And for newbies, let's say that we did do Ubuntu like Bob has always played with. Okay, fine. There are some things that are easier there. It has PPAs, which are kind of like browser extensions to the operating system, and give you more features outside of the normal distro. But at the same time, too, you don't have as easy a time doing an upgrade to a new version if you want to do that. That's where LTS and rolling versions come in. If you use a non-rolling or LTS version, you might have to reinstall the OS for every version you want to upgrade to. But that if you did the separate partitions for root and home directories and the swap file, then you have the ability to just replace the root partition with the new version and you're back in business. On the other hand, if you do the all-in-one partition like Windows does, you got to wipe out the whole thing and start from scratch.
Or back up your home directory as if it were a separate partition.
You could do that, but most people aren't going to do the separate backup stuff because they're not going to think of it because it's not normal to them. if they do a backup at all, they're just using documents and stuff like that, and
Yeah,
very little else.
There are also, just as you have in Mint Time Shift, there are similar tools for Ubuntu where you can do data backup,
Yes, and
they're pretty much one click once you have them set up.
right. And I don't have a time shift in Mint here set up simply because of the small size drive I'm using, and this is a demo type test version anyhow. From my standpoint, it's not a production one.
Yeah, I directed my time shift to a different drive.
Okay, it's just a case where there's limits on this system that are difficult, not impossible to overcome. And
Yeah.
I don't want to really mess with it right now.
No,
So,
you don't need to.
you have different tricks that you can play, but some of these, like the Mint, makes a lot of things for newbies in particular much simpler, much easier, both to do and understand. And that's why Mint is very popular for newbies from a Windows environment. Not to say that you can't do some of the same things, like the Windows FX 10 or 11. They look just like 10 and 11 initially until you drill down far enough. And because they're based on Mint, you get all the benefits of Mint as well, including that upgrade feature. I'm not recommending them per se. I'm just giving you a highlight. There's other ones like Elementary, very simple, easy to use Linux OS for beginners. And there's several others that are quite easy for beginners to pick up and use. Some of the desktops look like Windows, some of them look like Macintosh, and some are absolutely unique in how they look, where the taskbars is, whether it's top or the bottom. A lot of them give you the ability to move your taskbars to the side, etc., etc. Only they're not called taskbars in Linux. They're called panels.
Yeah.
So I have to take you from the Windows environment nomenclature to the Linux nomenclature. Otherwise, you say panels. What the hell is a panel? Panel is your taskbar down at the bottom of your screen, probably for most of you, unless you have certain versions of Linux that it's usually at the top, or it's on the left side in most cases like Ubuntu. So it all depends on what you like. I look at Linux and all of the distributions as unique compared to Mac or Windows. They give you one OS, one desktop. You can customize them up to a certain point, but you don't see what you can find in 600 distributions of Linux out there. I call that, all these distributions, individualism expression or artistic expression, because you have 18 or more different desktops that have different characteristics, from heavyweight desktops like Windows and Mac have to very lightweight, almost non-existent graphical desktop interfaces. Or you can even use strictly command line, like the original Arch Linux has no graphical display whatsoever. It's all command line. And if you didn't like MS and PC DOS, you probably aren't going to like an environment like that. But that's the next territory I'm going to try and breach here before we quit tonight. And I'm going to do a little bit. I got to do a little setup here first. So bear with me a little bit.
Tim, while you're doing that,
Yeah, go ahead. I hear you.
I upgraded the Linux box.
Yep.
I reinstalled the new Zoom, and
Yep.
now the camera on that one is working.
Aw. Pull the USB plug out and it won't work again. Then you'll feel just like you did when you first started out. All right, now I gotta share this screen so that I can. Okay. Now what I did here, this is a good old command line. Why do we have command line? We got it in Windows and Mac too. Graphical interfaces like we're used to using in Windows and Mac are much easier to understand and to use. There's no question about that. When you're using the command line, you have to remember a lot of stuff. And that's a headache for a lot of folks. But it gives you much more powerful features and controls if you know what you're doing. One of the things that I want to bring up, let's stick in here, LS. LS, oops, if I do it right, I don't do it on this keyboard. I got to do it on a different keyboard. So pardon me for a moment. This is playing a game of swap. All right, LS. Now this looks different than what you would see on Windows or a Mac. It goes kind of horizontally with line wrap, whereas in Windows and Mac, it gives you more of a vertical display of your content. It defaults in this case to your home directory. Now, if I go LS backslash, not forward slash like in Windows, I think this will let me do it. No, it's not going to let me do it that way. I was going to try.
I always use forward slash.
A lot of times it won't work for me. You got to use the backslash. See, it won't do it either way. Permission
You need a
is
sudo.
denied.
Sudo.
Yeah, I know. And that's the other thing in this instance for the root. And that's because it's a protected territory. And so it doesn't want to, shall we say, give up the jewels. And now, in some cases, whoops, it didn't list it. Did I make a mistake? If you hit the up arrow key on the keyboard, it brings up the last command. If you keep hitting it, it goes through all your commands one at a time up the list to the first one. So I'm going to key that in again. No, it still doesn't want to show. It probably requires a switch.
L?
Pardon?
Is it -L?
It may require a switch. That's what you're referring to. Sometimes instead of calling it a switch, they call it a flag. Oops.
Tim, root is a special case. You don't actually type the word root. You type just the slash.
Okay. Well, this is the first time I'm trying to do it. There you go. Now,
There you go.
The -L gives you the way you would see the directory in Windows and Mac. Without the -L, and I'm going to do it again, removing that flag. That's the way the same directory looks. So you got two options there. Now, where do we come up with some of this stuff? You can go out on the internet to search for various Linux commands. I've got an article in the document that shows you 10 commands, and I'm going to go over a few that aren't in there. But I'm going to do one here. Man LS. Man stands for manual, and LS is for the, I'll call it the directory command, which is what we would call it in Windows. This tells you all about it and all the options, which are called flags. You have the 1- type flag, and you have the double dash. In some versions of Linux, you may not see the single dash command available, only the double dash. I haven't figured out why. Here's one here. You want to know the author? There is no single dash command. You must use the double dash command. And this is where you learn, you have your built-in, no internet really required, way of finding out what your options are for every single command out there. And this is something I only use myself once in a while, because I limit myself on what I do, and I usually, with those limited commands, do the things that I want to do most. Another one is ping. Now, this will go on forever. There is a flag with a value that you can set to say, I only want to do it 4 or 5 times. So I have to do a Control-C to exit out of that. But it tells me I've got a live site I'm trying to get to, so I have an internet connection that is working. Otherwise, maybe it's a case where the site is either being blocked by a DDoS attack, it's down for some kind of maintenance, or the system crashed, but it can be other issues where part of the internet is broken and you can't get to it, like AWS, which is Amazon, or sometimes some of the other providers and or DNS services are getting hacked, and suddenly business sites no longer have internet access, so their POS, point of sale application on their cashier computers and possibly the ordering system don't work.
Can we ping ccs.org?
What is that? Now, I just broke it again. I don't remember all the what flag it is under ping. I can look it up. What the hell? Oops, pint? Yeah, I don't know what pint is either. I haven't been to Britain, so I don't know what it is. I had to stop and think. I had a senior moment. By the way, you can restrict to IP4 only or IP6 only, depending on what services you have. And
We used to be able to
Here it
see how
is.
many steps it took to get there.
no, that's a different command. Sorry,
Okay.
that's a different command. Now here's -C. If I go back here and go ping, if I can spell, and I put 4, and I go ccs.org, it's going to ping it 4 times and automatically stop. That's what I was trying to allude to. Instead of this is what Windows will do for you, and I think Mac does the same thing. But usually they restrict it to 5 pings and then stop automatically. I think there's options in there that you can go longer. For some reason, Linux's, if you just put in ping and the address that you're trying to reach, it'll go on until you drop dead or the computer dies, whichever comes first. So this is something. Now, there's another couple commands, and they're in conjunction with one another. It depends on your computer. If I go ifconfig, oops, yeah, thought I hit a wrong key. This gives you information about Ethernet connection. And it says my iNet address is 192.168.1.29. That's the internal in my house address of this computer. That can be very important and needed in some instances. It says the where is it at? It also has iNet 6. So iNet 6 is available, and it gives you the new style address. The old iNet up here is IPv4. These are 3-digit octets, they're called. This down here are 5 hexadecimal values. Wait a minute, is it 1, 2, 3? Yeah, 5 hexadecimal values for the address, meaning that you have website addresses that hopefully we never get around to using up like we really have on IPv4. I forget what the numbers of maximum addresses is, but they had to create the V6 version to expand beyond. It gives you some other little pieces of information that may or may not be of value. If you have Wi-Fi, like a laptop, you go iwconfig. I can't do it here because most laptops do not have Wi-Fi. This one I can put the Wi-Fi on because I found out how to deal with it. Some adapters under Linux it doesn't like, and other adapters it has no trouble with. On Windows, if it's a desktop machine, you have to turn on a service that Microsoft says you don't need, therefore they disable it. So you have to go in, change it from disabled to automatic, then you have to apply that setting, then you click the start button, and your Wi-Fi adapter will all of a sudden connect, and then you select what router you're going to connect to, give the proper passphrase, and use your Wi-Fi to your heart's content, just like most laptops. So that's a couple of commands, and you have to accept that there, in some cases, are no graphical interfaces, and in some cases, the graphical interface leaves a lot to be desired because it hasn't been polished yet, is the way I'm going to phrase it. So knowing how to get to the command line, being able to use the command line commands gives you a big advantage of being able to do things. like Peter brought up, the updater he was having on the graphical interface difficulty with, and he did a different way of getting a change to his system in order to bring up that capability to be working again. My suspicion, now that I think about it, you have to be careful. When update software pops up, from time to time, it will give you a screen and you have to stare at that screen. It says that it has a new updater package and you have to install that package, and then everything works normally. So that's a possible reason why, Peter, your updater didn't work right as you expected. That's a guess. Now, some people like to do remote access of their home computer, and so another command is IPADDR, and this is very, very similar to the ifconfig, so I'm not sure that it gives you everything you might need to know, because usually you're looking for the outside ISP service address assigned to your account. That's how you knock on the door to get into your computer remotely. Actually, it gets into your network. Then you can access individual computers you have set up. Another one, if you remember DOS, or are familiar with the command window in Windows or a Mac, in Windows you have a command called type, and you give it a file name, usually a text file, but you can also open up read, readme, and read.me type files, which are text files also. You'll just have to respond to another message. But I'm trying to remember. I have one. Anyway, under here it's called cat. And then if the file name you want to display is contiguous, no spaces, you just type out the name of the file. Kind of like that. And it will display the content of the file right underneath that command. On the other hand, you can actually show multiples like this, and it will show you multiple ones, and you can carry that further. Let's say we got Joe text followed by the Jane text, but I want to make a new file out of them that combines the two. So I use a redirect and call it John.text, and what it does is it opens up Joe text first and sends the information to John.text that it creates. Then it opens up Jane text, takes all of its content and appends it to John.text, and it's all done. And you have one combined file. Cat has a whole plethora of other capabilities. It's a powerful little one. There's another one I'm not going to display here called grep. Grep, G-R-E-P, is a very powerful command that allows you to find things selectively that are on your system. I'm not going to go into them. We're already at 9:35. So we've actually gone farther than normal. So I'm going to wrap it up at this point here and open it to the floor for additional questions, comments, and suggestions. Well, don't everybody speak up at once. Gee whiz. No.
Now, were you going to put out that list that you talked about?
Well, how much you paying? It's at least $1 per letter on the 2 pages. I got to make money somewhere. Look at what inflation's doing to us. God. At any rate, I'll put that out. I'll be sending a copy of this video to put up on the YouTube channel, but I'll also send you a link in the message that I send out to you guys, and that so you can, especially those of you who are latecomers, you can get a copy of the video and play it at your heart's content and pick up what you missed. Does that sound fine?
Yep.
It doesn't matter whether you say fine or not. All right. Anything else? I'm going to also save the chat. I almost forgot about that. Sometimes I do forget about it.
Yeah.
But sometimes...
Yeah, there might be some fun links in there.
Yeah, I know. Well, I mean, sometimes I forget to do it because I'm kind of in a rush. And but at least I remembered it tonight. So at least now I'm shutting down the recording as far as this goes. I just have 3 different machines I got to do that on, and they're 2 of them are 2 different ways. They got different hotkeys. Linux can't use the same hotkeys that I use on Windows. Some kind of a conflict. And I haven't looked into it as to why. I don't care. I selected other keys. I got a cheat sheet that I made of my own hotkeys for the recording software. And that's all I need.
Well, you do realize Linux has its own system hotkeys.
Well, I understand that, but at the same time, too, it seems like there's a lot more tied up under the Linux side in hotkeys available than on the Windows side, and probably true on the Mac too, but I haven't investigated the Mac side.
Yeah, Linux has a lot of hotkeys.
Yeah, and that's where the conflict comes in. So that's why I had to figure out new set of hotkeys. And as an example, to start a recording on Windows, I use a Control F9. And to stop it, I use a Control F10. But on Linux, I use Windows F9 and Windows F10 does the same thing.
Although in Linux, we would call that super.
Well, I understand, but in Mac, it's called command.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's all relative, and you just have to expand your vocabulary of words because there are differences between each of the OSs, and some of this is to make them more unique to themselves rather than copying from somebody else, whoever the somebody is.
I like just hitting the Windows key and it brings up the whole menu.
Yep. But see, that's the same thing that happens on Windows.
Yeah.
It just activates the start menu.
Yeah, you get your applications menu in Mint when you hit the super key.
Yeah.
So, anybody got anything else offhand?
Good, good over here.
Well, can't have good everywhere, otherwise we'll have nothing to do.
Like I say, I'm still working on my sound issue.
Yeah, well, that one's going to be a real tough nut to crack, I think, because of Realtek. It's one of those things. What are you going to do?
I have it working in Ubuntu. So what I need to do is go back and see what I did in Ubuntu and see if something similar can happen in Mint. I had to add an extra pulse audio button.
That might be the case because usually what you can do in Ubuntu will transfer to Mint. Even PPAs, some of them will work. I came across a PPA that I don't remember what it was right now. I wanted to use in Mint, and it wouldn't go in Mint because it didn't meet certain criteria that were required, but it works under Ubuntu.
Mm-hmm. That's why I stick to the main repositories.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a case where whoever made up that PPA didn't do something that Mint didn't like, and so they didn't trust it, and they wouldn't let you install.
Sometime in the future, we can discuss ways that they're trying to solve that problem of dependencies or dependency hell. Things like Snap, Flatpak, and AppImage.
Yeah,
We can discuss that later.
it's a kind of a deep subject, and I don't disagree with that at all. They're just issues I don't completely like, but I understand where they're coming from because it can cause the hell condition that aggravates the hell out of everybody that runs into it.
Well, there are pros and cons to each way of doing things.
Well, most of the time, I would say Windows does it a little bit better because like Flatpak, I'm not sure about SnapPak. You're duplicating a lot of stuff, which takes
Right.
So you're taking up more space on your drive. Whereas in Windows, you have less of this hell condition for removing an app and having it remove pieces of software that are being used by other pieces of software. It kind of blocks that.
Yeah, well, the analog in Windows would be a portable app. And portable apps in Windows can add a lot of garbage.
Yes. Portable apps are used in our Windows environment. They came from Linux. They creators or somebody else made a graphical wrapper, it's called, so that it works in Windows and looks like any kind of a Windows program, but it doesn't modify the registry. And you can't use like Revo or Geek Uninstaller to remove portable apps. You have to go into the old file control panel program features menu, and that's where you find them and remove them.
Well, you just find the main folder for it. If you know what the main folder is.
That's another option too, and that is you can let's say really like a Rufus. That's a portable app that came from the Linux world. I leave it in my download folder. I right-click on it, create a shortcut, put it on my desktop so it's convenient and easy to get to and use. If I want to replace it, I just go to the old package and I right-click and delete it. Right. Then make a shortcut for the new package that I installed and put that on the desktop, deleting the old shortcut that's out there that doesn't work anymore. It's half a dozen, one or another. Well, hopefully you guys got something out of this. I got a few ideas. I'm not that are on the back burner and for maybe the next meeting. How much I get to, I'm not sure yet. But I wanted to introduce the command line some. It seems like other groups are avoiding it. There's a lot of power there. I didn't demo what I normally do for, because I did it way back in the early stages of this group, where I use command line to do an update and an upgrade, because that's all you had. You didn't have the graphical packages yet. Those came along later from when I got into Linux running it. So they are my fallback tool. And when I have had a problem I couldn't quickly fix in a graphical package to update the system, I just bring up the terminal and I do it through the command line. It gets done. And I did have one of those recently, and I didn't want to take time and mess around with it. I just brought up the terminal, did the update, and I don't care. I'll deal with the other issue at a later time when I've got time. So this is some of the flexibility. Flexibility is a pain in how much there is and how much you have to learn and retain, is the best way I can put it. So generally speaking, the more you want to get out of the system, the more you got to learn, and you can't ignore the command line all your life, because you'll run into problems sooner or later, and the command line may be the only way to get out of that problem. So I'll leave you with that. Anything, last words? Hearing none, I'll end the meeting and bid you all good morning. It's about that time.
Morning, it's dinner
Yeah.
time.
No. When I have breakfast, that's night. All right.
It's,
See you
it's
later.
only 48 here.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put that down. I'm gonna put that down. Personalize. I gotta go through all these. God damn it. Okay. Show the desktop. Now these I don't have to get to. Right away. Ugh.